awesome. Let's move on to the PowerPoint presentation, shall we? Okay. Alright. No, this is not what I want. Alright, cool. Well, yeah, that's the end of Microsoft Teams being open. There we go. No, I don't want to receive notifications, obviously. Alright, sorry about this, everybody. There we go. No, that won't be a problem anymore. Alright, okay, cool. Alright, well that shouldn't be there. We'll get there in the end, I promise. All these teething issues, what the hell is going on here? Unbelievable. Okay. So. At last. Okay, cool. So, alright, we're officially beginning. Everyone's in the stream there. That's great. Actually, I need to do the register. Sorry, everybody. Never-ending series of things here. So, could everyone please start... could everybody please start smashing in the chat if you're here? Let's have a look what we got. Oh, Dager's here, and I've lost 3 viewers. What's going on, everyone? What is going on? So I've got Dager. Marking it as registered. So, who else? Jamal, start typing away in the chat. Not as in, sorry, in the live stream chat. Not in the other chat. Maybe that's what's confusing people. Excuse me. So, I need more people to type in the chat, please. As in the stream chat. So, Pfizer. Who's El Moli? I've got Mikhail. Mikhail, it's a miracle. It's the first time I've seen you here. Right, so I think I'll have to do. Let's do this. Okay, cool. So, actually, I need to put down Mikkel on the register because I don't think I've got you down. Okay, Mikkel. Alright, awesome. Okay, cool. So I think that should do it. Alright, so today we're going to be looking at doing a food web, and then I'm going to be launching our beautiful and wonderful assignment, which is assignment 3.1. Now obviously you've not done assignments with me before until now, so obviously that, you know, is going to be a new experience, as it were. But nonetheless, I think it will be, yeah, I think it's a good. I think it's going to be a good experience, basically.
Sam, you need to mute yourself.
Okay. Oh crap! Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Muted. Thank you, Hassan. I don't even know how I heard you there. You must have unmuted yourself temporarily. All right. Okay. Sorry. You're getting a double echo now. So hopefully you're not getting that anymore. Yeah. And we're away. Now you can see my screen. Hold on. Back to the PowerPoint presentation. All right. Great. So let's do this. Okay. Cool. So food web. Look at this image here and tell me what eats what and how can you show this. So have a quick look at this list here. There's basically two chains, and those chains basically, yeah. So tell me what eats what. Can everyone start putting in the chat? So there's a relationship between the top three and there's a relationship with the bottom three. Tell me which one eats what and in what order. To start typing it in the chat, obviously. Sorry, Emmanuel. I know it was very annoying that I hadn't muted myself. Okay. Good, thank you, Mikkel. Fox, rabbit, grass. That's right, or more appropriately, the rabbit eats the grass, the fox eats the rabbit, yeah. Blackbird, caterpillar, leaf. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well done. Well done to me. I really like that way you've done that as well. Yeah, exactly right. So there's a food chain. Naturally, of course, human beings would be the top of basically all food chains. But in the wild, no, we wouldn't be. But we are omnivores. So we both meat and also plants. All right, cool. So, outcomes of this lesson, we're going to be describing what happens in a food chain. We're going to describe how animals interact on a food web, and we're going to describe how seasonal changes may affect a food web. So, here we go. So, keywords. Find the definition and example for each. A producer, a consumer, a predator, a prey, a herbivore, a carnivore, an omnivore, and a detritivore. Which is probably going to be quite a hard one to find. But yeah, you can see you see that there's sort of the top four are one. And then here we go. Here are the bottom four, as it were. And then for extension work, you can do secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. Okay. The arrow in the food chain shows the flow of the blank. Draw food chains from these. So I don't know if it puts the. There we go. There we go. All right. So. Here are your examples. You've got grass, hawk and vole, slug, grass, adder and frog. So these are all linked to each other. These are all interconnected. So looking at the top three there, can someone tell me what the relationship is? And then for the bottom one, can you tell me the relationship for that one? Ecology is correct. Well done, Amir. So I find the delay on this really annoying. I wish there was less of a delay time, as it were. But I think it helps with flow. Is Alia in the group? I don't know who El Moli is. Who's El Moli? Oh, it's Joseph. Okay, fine. Grassfall Hawk, that's right. And then for the bottom one, if you could have a, what's the relationship going on there? Oh, good, good. All right, Elia, wonderful. I'm not seeing Harvey in here either, actually, funnily enough. Ah! Add a frog slug. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's fairly intuitive, to be honest. So here you have an example of what's called a food web. So that is different animals can eat different things and have different relationships with them, and this is one such. It's very nice to be at the top of the food web because you don't have anyone that's trying to eat you, but that means you still have to go out and eat other things, and that's a lot of work and effort. So naturally, of course, every food web, if you look at it at the bottom, name the producer in this food web. Okay, so in this particular case, it would be the plant. Name two herbivores in this food web. So what's a herbivore? I mean, the phrase herb probably is a good giveaway. Oh, is Chanel here, by the way? So two herbivores in this would be, for example, the moth and the vole, or the mouse. You know, they only eat plants. That's right, well done, Pfizer there. Then name two species that are top carnivores. Okay, now be careful about that one, because while there are definitely a lot of carnivores in here, that doesn't mean they're top carnivores. So a top carnivore is somebody who does not get eaten by anybody else. So for example, a lion. No one eats a lion. Certainly not in any food webs I'm aware of. So the top carnivores in this particular case would be the owl, and then also there would be this, I think it's a ferret. Yeah, it looks like a ferret to me. Now, of course, these two birds here are also carnivores, you know, and they're quite high up in the tree, but an owl will kill and eat them, as will this lovely ferret. I think it's a ferret. How many secondary consumers are there? So that's a good one, isn't it? So secondary consumers would be the ladybird here and the spider here. So they don't eat plants directly, but at the same time they are relatively low down in the chain. So they're sort of the next one up, the next one up from consuming. So you've got consumers here and then secondary consumers here. Which food chains include the moth? A really good question, and you can kind of basically see, you just sort of look at what goes next. In this case, there would be two food chains involve the moth. All right, okay, cool. So the next bit of assignment, as it were, would be this food web here. So write down 2 food chains from this food web. Naturally, of course, if we were in lesson, we would do that, but we're not going to do that. But essentially, all you have to do is literally follow the line from your producer, which in this case is algae, and then whatever consumes that. So you can do one here, like sea turtle to great white shark, or you can do algae to blue regal to great white shark, or you can do algae to clownfish to great white shark, or any other things. But essentially, you can do that. Now we've got a video. No, stop it. Why is my mouse so bad? Useless presentation. Alright, hold on. Right, let's boot up the video, shall we? Stupid thing. Okay. No, that's not what I wanted, but whatever. Video unavailable. Awesome. Okay, never mind then, forget that. Alright, here we go. So there's a video that you would have had, but anyway, whatever. What will happen to the number of clownfish if the sharks become vegetarian? So let's do some final questions there, and then I'm going to give you your assignment to do. So, what will happen to the number of clownfish if sharks become vegetarian? And the answer is, they would obviously increase. But there's a knock-on effect. What effect will this have on the number of zooplankton? Well, obviously the clownfish eat the zooplankton and they eat the algae, so if there's more of them, their numbers will decrease. And then what will happen to the clownfish? Their numbers will also decrease. So it is an interesting kind of a relationship, as it were. So let's have a look. What will happen to the blue regal fish if a disease wipes out the small invertebrates? Well, I think it's fair to say it could almost be a neutral effect. It would, because small invertebrates eat algae, then all that would happen is the algae would have more numbers, and the blue regals would probably eat them. So if anything, the blue regal may actually increase in number because there's less waste, there's less animals in the food chain consuming it and using energy to survive. So actually, if anything, because they don't eat any algae anymore, the blue regals might increase in size, not decrease. Which is the producer in the food web? It grows better in the summer. Why? So how will the summer affect the other animals in the food web? And this is a really important thing. What we as humans have mitigated for this, but generally speaking, there is a massive seasonal effect on wildlife and its viability. And essentially, in the summer, the sunlight's obviously pretty intense. Plants consume a lot more light, have a lot more energy, there's a lot more heat, and so forth. Therefore, they produce a lot more food. All the animals then eat that food, and therefore there's enough to support much higher numbers of people, and therefore they all increase. The overall value of the food web increases. And obviously during the winter, the opposite is true, so the overall value of the food web decreases. Now, as human beings, what we used to do is we found the whole idea of harvesting. And basically during the summer, when we harvest all the massive abundance of the land because it's summertime, and then we'd look at different ways of preserving things so that throughout the winter we would survive and everything would be fine. So, that's kind of the lay of the land, as it were. So human beings, again, with our awesome tool survival skills, means that we're largely speaking unaffected by these kind of things. But not always. Famines and that kind of stuff, but on average that's where we're at. So it's all good in the hood, as it were. But for animals, very much the season it is massively affects their survival rate. Alright, so there's a worksheet with this that I was going to give you, but where's the chat? No, here we go. Okay. So, where is the worksheet? Here we go. So I have a worksheet here that kind of hammers it home. About like what's going on here. However, I have decided in this particular cases that you probably pretty much already get this anyway. This is fairly basic stuff. Like you shouldn't have a massive issue with this. So I can make this available. So this is available on Moodle if you want to have a look at it. But I want to move on straight to your assignment instead. All right. So we'll just skip that. Right. Okay. Worksheet. Here we go. All right. So officially this isn't handed out till Monday, but you may as well get the jump on it now. So this here is your first ever proper assignment with me online that you can download and work on. And you're going to work on it today, and then you're going to send me what you've done in 2 hours. So here it is. Learning aims. Be able to investigate the functioning and classifications of organisms. So you're working at a local laboratory for a scientific company that is looking into building blocks of life. As part of the project you're working on, you have been asked to show your knowledge on how functioning of different organisms relates to the genes within the cells. Research into how organisms are dependent on each other and how they can be affected by external influences, bringing out evolutionary change. Okay, so that's kind of really wordy, but basically you're going to be looking at like life and biology and all that kind of jazz. So here's basically there's a series of tasks here that you need to do. You kind of worked on these already, but the difference is now these can be digital. These can be done on Word documents, which will be a lot easier for you, but make sure you reference. So draw. Well, this obviously you're going to have to draw these. Draw both plant and animal cells, labelling the organelles with cells. Explain the roles of the organelle and those functions. It's almost like I made you do that earlier in the week, and you can just take the images you've already drawn and put it into your assignment. Isn't that lucky? Demonstrate your understanding by creating four different classification systems. Okay, so this is to do with the animal kingdom thing. All organisms can be classified into one of 5 different groups using the table classify organisms, at least 2 of each, into the following. Alright, cool. So, Monera, protozoans, fungi, plants, animals. Differentiate between vertebrate and invertebrates in a Venn diagram. So, you know what a Venn diagram is? Maybe you don't. Let me just grab one. So a Venn diagram is like this. So, there. So you can kind of go vertebrates, invertebrates, and then you've got something in the middle, which is what both vertebrates and invertebrates have. Alright, that's what a Venn diagram is. Shouldn't have too much difficulty working that one out. Alright, anyway, no, I wasn't looking at that one, I was looking at this one. So, differentiate characteristics between animals, fish, birds, amphibians, reptiles in a tree diagram. You've kind of done that already, so that makes life easier. You will be given a selection of plants and animals to look at. You will create a simple classification key that will enable the identification of a species of plant or animal. Now, when I say you'll be given a selection of plants and animals to look at, what I mean by that is you won't be given a selection of plants and animals to look at because we're not doing an experiment. So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to pick out 5 random different animals and you'll create a simple classification key that will enable you to identify the different species of plant or animal. So 5 plants, 5 animals. Okay? Next one. You will create a food web. Use this food web to describe the interdependence of organisms in your food web. Then look at a predator and its prey within your food web and describe their adaptations. So try to be creative with this one. Try and pick, a very different ecosystem that you're not really used to. Pfizer, I would like you to be able to download this yourself. Well, Emoli, you'll find that you've done a lot of this work already throughout the week, assuming you've been doing the work I've been giving you to do. So you've pretty much done most of this anyway from what I've seen from you. Look at the food web and explain how the organisms within your ecosystem will interact over time. What changes may take place through the thing. Okay, cool. So, Emmanuel and Emoli and anybody else thinks it's too much. This is a 2-week assignment that you have to do. Okay? So, don't panic. Alright? You are going to break this down into chunks. You're not doing this in the next hour and a half. Don't worry. So this is an assignment that you're going to have 2 weeks to work on, and I'm going to be helping you within lessons to do it. So don't worry, don't panic. You have learned about the different species of animals that are evolving. You are asked to compare the main characteristics of an Indian elephant and an African elephant. How many genes and the environment affect the characteristics of an Indian and African elephant? How many different characteristics develop into different organisms, Indian and African elephants? Create a fact sheet showing the stages within transcription and translation. Oh man. Describe the key features of a saber-toothed cat and explain how genes control the variation within the species, code messages that brought about the extinction of the saber-toothed cat. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I want you all to download this from Moodle. Okay, so you need to go to Moodle, sign in, you need to go to the level 2A course, and then you need to go to assignments and Dropbox, and you will find Unit 3 Assignment 1 there. You all have to do it yourself. Nobody needs to pin it on Discord. You want to learn this important life skill, which is getting assignments off Moodle. So, no. The changes on the assignment brief, can you pin it in Discord? Yours isn't working. Well, love finds a way, Manpreet. Love finds a way. So, but I want you all to learn to download it. Alright? I'll give you a quick demo now. Look, here we go. So, I'm going to properly load up again. Here we go. So, start off with Moodle. There we go. And then you log in. Then you go to My Courses here on the left hand side. And then we've got Level 2A Applied Science. Then you go to this one here that says Assignments and Dropbox. And then if you scroll down at the bottom, you'll see Assignment 3.1. And then you click on it, and then you download it. Alright, let me know how you get on. If it doesn't work now, try it again later. What you can do as well is, I will, there are changes on the brief that aren't written down. No, there aren't. I uploaded this brief this morning. Here, look, just downloaded it. Just opened it up. It's got exactly in there that what needs to be in there. There are no changes at all. It's in the live stream, Alia. All you have to do is watch the video again to find out what to do. So, that's the nice thing about recording this stuff. You can just reload it later and watch it. Alright, okay, cool. So, that's the assignment. It doesn't officially launch until Monday. So that gives us time to do a little bit of work on evolution. So, there you go. And all the resources, by the way, are here in Learning Outcome Resources 1. So everything that we're doing here is covered. Alright, so let's move on to our next slideshow anyway. Right, Manpreet, or anybody else that is struggling to go to work, talk to me later about it, and I'll sort you out. Okay. Well, the thing is, I want you to start it now, but I want to recap with you. I want to recap with you natural selection, for goodness sake. First. because I'm concerned you won't be able to do the assignment unless I go through this one. When you say you've already got dozens to do, Amir, what do you mean, like assignments or whatever? I'm not sure. Right, let's do natural selection and possibly evolution as well. No, but you can start in about 20 minutes. So I'll give you an hour in this lesson to start working on 3.1. Okay? Alright, so let's do let's do natural selection. So, what is meant by natural selection? Describe the process of natural selection, and of course, apply the knowledge of natural selection to suggest how animals evolve. Alright. So natural selection is called survival of the fittest. Use the information from the video to sum up the survival of the fittest in 2 sentences. We're going to skip that one. Alright, here we go. For natural selection to be taking place, you need 4 things. 1. Variation. So that is they look or behave differently. Mutation. That's where your genes change. Differential survival. Some things are doing better. The fittest survived. And then the genes being passed on. So those are the 4 different things involved in natural selections. So that's kind of the breakdown there. Let's look at fish. Oops. Chippy Island. How does the beak size affect the ability to get food and therefore affect future generations? How does this affect the evolution of the population? So, oops-a-daisy. So, this is a big kind of thing that happens a lot. Generally, and this is the whole thing about natural selection, is that, and I think this is the key thing that I wanted to sort of emphasize on, is it's not so much the strongest animal survives, it's actually the best adapted to the particular environment. Alright? And so, for example, let's take something like fur. Yeah? So it's like, oh, he has lots of fur. You think, oh, that's great in an Arctic climate. And you're like, yes, it is. But it's actually really bad in a hot climate, and vice versa. And so generally what tends to happen is, if there is a dominant climate or a dominant, environment which it stays consistently the same, then basically the creatures who are best adapted to that environment will survive. So if you've got a thick level of fur over you and it's generally cold a lot of the time, then actually you're going to survive. Now all the ones who naturally had less fur either migrate further south to survive or they die. And so you have this kind of, and then those genes get passed on, and then it sort of progresses on and on and on like that. And so the same thing applies. For example, there's a certain island in, I think it is the Pacific Ocean, near the Galapagos, basically, where they have the most poisonous snakes in the world. Okay? Their venom instantly kills you, and it's super, super, super poisonous. Okay? Now, why is that? Why are these snakes so damn poisonous? Well, here's the funny thing. The snakes on that particular island only eat birds because, well, they've obviously killed off, or there wasn't any existing rodent life. Now, rodents are easier for snakes to catch, and also doesn't require the same level of poison in order for the snakes to effectively hunt and kill them. But when you've only got birds, you've got to damn well make sure that when you bite that bird, it goes down. If it can fly off from your grip, then forget about it. You've lost your lunch and you as a species die. So essentially, through natural selection in that particular island environment, the snakes that were super poisonous were the ones that did best at catching the birds, and equally the ones that weren't that poisonous or weren't poisonous at all found that the birds got away even after they bite them. And so that's kind of the thing. And it was the same thing. Funny enough, the theory of evolution was actually inspired by the Galapagos Islands, because basically the wildlife there operated completely differently to what we were used to. So for example, iguanas, this is the big thing that Charles Darwin observed. He was like, that's weird. Iguanas only live on land. In the Galapagos Islands, they swam in water. And this really made him think. He was like, It's almost like they're adapted to their environment. And of course, the iguanas being able to swim was a key part of their survival in the Galapagos Islands. So, and that's what's really interesting about, when you have isolated islands. Not so much with people, because people make boats and leave and come and go. But definitely in terms of animals that don't have those kind of sophisticated tools. It's incredible, absolutely incredible, the kind of adaptations that you see in them that allow them to survive. So, it's very interesting. So, Clippy Island, how does beak size affect the ability to get food and therefore affect a future generation? Well, naturally, of course, the bigger the beak, the better they are at catching the food, and therefore the people with the biggest beak survive, are thriving the most, therefore have the most offspring, and therefore this gene gets passed on, and that's kind of how it works. Gene transmission is a key thing. So here you go, calorie values for food on Clippy Island. So you've got red beans, white beans, and black beans. And then you've got the calorie score, 10, 5, and 2. And then the threshold for survival. Here you go. So look at the big beak. Look at the beak size, yeah? So, tiny beak, less than 10 calories, you die. You need 10 calories in order to survive, and then you need 20 calories in order to survive and reproduce. And the one you need to look at there is the survive and reproduce. Now, here's an interesting thing that's worth noting, yeah? Alright, the bigger the beak, the more calories it's required in order to survive, because obviously, that takes more weight, more effort, etc., etc. So, therefore, if you think about it, having the biggest beak, even though it may be the best at getting food, and it is definitely the best at getting food, the cost in terms of calories to run that big beak may prove to be not worth it in terms of survival. So look at this, a tiny beak only needs 10 calories to survive and 20 calories to reproduce. So they can eat literally, 10 black beans and they're away. Or, 4 white beans and survive. And so even though that doesn't do as well in terms of ability to eat beans and that kind of stuff, naturally, of course, the calorie cost is so low that actually they don't need that much food to survive and pass on their genes. So a creature with a tiny beak could actually far outdo a big beak animal, even though the big beak is better at getting beans, because of the demands put on you in terms of calories versus what you can farm. And so, for example, look at this one here, small beak needs 50 calories to survive and reproduce. That is quite significant as well. So those, like I say, so this is what you have to look at. Now, it depends on what the big beak gives you. So, for example, the big beak allows you to easily access 15 red beans a day without any difficulty at all, or eat a lot of beans in a go, then that can work. But it's not always the biggest always wins. Don't worry if you're not really understanding it, I will recap. So, there you've got a score sheet here, and this is kind of, we would have done this in lesson, but we're not going to do it in lesson. So, but essentially, we would give out different beans, and then you would pick them out, and then you would maybe survive or die. So, and then you can see here what people get. Anyway, don't worry about that. Forget that. All right. The point I was trying to make is that survival isn't linear or simple. Okay, it isn't just like biggest wins, or strongest wins, or whatever. There's a lot of different factors going in place. And for example, if there was a nuclear war, in which basically all humans died, there are actually quite a lot of animals that wouldn't die in the event of a nuclear war. So for example, cockroaches would probably survive, as would other insects, because they're less vulnerable to the radiation, for example. And also they reproduce really easily. Whereas human beings, not only would the radiation kill us, but it would get into our genes and cause a lot of birth defects and that kind of stuff. So, it really messes you up, assuming there's a nuclear war. You know, there's all kinds of different things. You know, if a meteorite came from the asteroids and wiped out all life on the surface of the planet, there are still organisms that would survive for quite a long time, far beyond what humans would. So, like I say, human beings right now, with the environment that there is on Earth, we're pretty well adapted to it. But actually, that's only because it's this current environment. If the environment were to drastically and suddenly change, all of a sudden, our survival advantages may disappear. As unlikely as that would be, because we have so much technology. But anyway. So yeah, unfortunately we've not been able to do this. This is something we would have loved to have done in lesson with you, to be honest. But like I say, the outcome would have shown actually that the tiny beaked bird probably did the best. So, but anyway, and the different islands would give you better results because of what's available. But anyway, whatever. All right, let's do a quiz, shall we? Let's do a quiz. And what I want you to do is spam into the chat, and then I'll do a recap to try and help you kind of get grips on it. Okay? Right, everyone ready? All right, remember to smash it into the chat as soon as you can see it. Here we go. Question 1. Pass. Natural selection is known as survival of the what? So, question again. What is needed within a population for evolution to take place? That's 4 things there. What is needed within a population for evolution to take place? Question number 3. If an organism has a characteristic which makes it more likely to survive than other members of its species, what is it more likely to go on and do? Pardon Alia for the first question, by the way. When there is a change in genetic material, this is called a what? So when there is a change in genetic material, this is called a what? Longer-nosed shrews are better at sniffing out prey. How would you expect the population to change and why? Boom. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So, congratulations to, let's have a look. Alia, Mum and Dad, Mikhail, Manpreet and Gurleen. I suppose the quiz is quite quick, to be fair. But yeah. So the thing I wanted to also touch on in terms of the survival of the fittest, and like I say, I'm sorry we don't have assignments to do like in lesson. But even if you look at people going back a couple thousand years, we're all adapted to our environment, okay? So for example, Europeans, yeah? These are people that live relatively close to the North Pole, yeah? So that's across Russia, North America, and obviously Europe, yeah? And basically our skin is quite, as you can see, light. There, you see that? It's light. And that's because we have little to no melanin in our skin. And why is that? Why is it that white people are white? Why do we have such little bits of melanin? And the reason being is that it helps, we can absorb more sunlight. If there's not as much sunlight, we can absorb it really well. And therefore we don't get deficient on vitamin D. Now, what happens if you have somebody who has lots of melanin? So people that come from Africa, for example, have lots of melanin in their skin, which is awesome at protecting from sun damage, which white people don't have. You know, Europeans burn, and they burn really easily, and they get skin cancer and die. So it's very bad for them. They do get more vitamin D, but they don't need it, and their skin gets destroyed. Meanwhile, Africans, their skin's very well adapted. You get a lot of burning hot sun continually, and they're completely fine. Their skin has such high levels of melanin in it that basically they don't really even burn. I mean, you do burn, but you know, nowhere near as badly as someone who has no melanin in their skin. But you take them into Northern Europe, where it's really cold and there's not much sunlight, or not as much sunlight, and the intensity isn't as much, basically they're going to get vitamin D deficiency problems. And that's a really interesting thing, is that basically even your skin colour is actually a type of natural selection, survival of the fittest type of jobs, where basically, I mean, it's changed now because obviously we move in planes and stuff like that, and the world's much smaller, but basically, in order to survive in those environments, you need an appropriate level of skin, of protection for your skin, and that is the reason why people have different colours of skin, because it helps them survive better in different environments. So, that's the thought there. All right, cool. Anyway, that's the natural selection. Now I had some other stuff on there as well. Oh, let me just have a look. So here we go. I think. Alright, yeah. So this is a fun little slide. So just quickly do. Alright, so here are some fish. Yeah, looking good. Natural selection. The green fish live in a pond. This fish develops camouflage. So it's an accidental gene mutation. It happens all the time. Suddenly, a giant predator fish turns up. Dun dun dun. Predator starts eating all the fish that don't have camouflage. All the fish that do have camouflage pass on their genes and survive and spread. Green fish targeted more readily. Blue fish survive to breed. Population characteristics change. The occasional green mutation will produce a green, but these are soon eliminated by predators. Here we go again. But if the environment changes, the rest is history. So, that's kind of the big point there is essentially, if your environment ever changes, and the environments can and will change, basically your survival advantage ends up becoming a disadvantage. Okay? And it's pretty much that simple. I remember Amir asking me, is like, could you like genetically modify someone to be like really, really strong, and make them like a superhuman? The thing is, and this is the thing that we pointed out with like the tiny beak things earlier on in the presentation, is that if you're really, really strong and hench, it's really good for fights. But what happens if there's a famine? Yeah? If you're going to be that big and strong, you need a huge amount of calories to support that. And actually that strength then becomes useless. Meanwhile, the skinny guy, who's good at climbing and hiding, all of a sudden has a massive survival advantage over the guy that's really, really strong. And the same can literally apply for anything. Alright? Literally anything in the world. So, oh dear, sorry, just having a seizure, everyone. So, your survival and the strength of your survival really is a reflection of the environment that you've grown up in or come from. Yeah? It isn't so much that it's necessarily one is better than the other. And this is where you get the idea of like eugenics. So for example, Hitler. Yeah? Hitler and a lot of scientists and mathematicians before that were into this thing called eugenics. And basically the idea was for Hitler was that there was that Germans, or as he called them, Aryans, were this superior superhuman race. They were like these super strong white people that was going to take over the world because we're awesome, blah 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 blah. And it was inspired by very, very bad science relating to evolution. That our strength and our power was genetic. And actually, the reality was that the Aryan race was no more or less superior than any other race, with exception to the fact that they were especially adapted to live in Germany and in Northern Europe. That's literally it. Now, if they were to try and survive in the heats of Africa or in other different climates, they definitely wouldn't be the master race. They would be the loser race. that lost out to the other people who were better adapted to their environments, and vice versa. You know, all things being even. And so the danger I think people have is you can look at certain attributes about people and see them as superior, but actually every single attribute is more a result of the environment that you are in and have adapted to. So it is not, there's no, strength isn't superior, height isn't superior. I don't live as long because I'm so tall. And you might see these things as a positive, but actually it could be, in fact, a negative. You know, what other attributes? You know, skin colour, you could say a particular skin colour is better than the other. That's not true either. It depends on the environment you're in. So these are all the things you have to take into account when it comes to natural selection, particularly in animal life. Like I say, human beings, we control our environments. We decide what they're like. So for us, natural selection doesn't massively apply anymore, or at least not in a way that you would think. There is social evolution, but I don't want to get into that right now. I think the key take-home message, though, for me, to you, in terms of the whole natural selection thing, is that you need to understand that all creatures have adaptations to themselves. You know, size of the ears, strength, height, weight, muscle density, you know, how good your eyes are, how good your sense of smell is, the shape of your different body, length of your nails, you know, the size of your hands, you know, whatever, in order to survive. And they will do really, really well in certain environments, and they don't do anywhere near as well in others. So, you know, that's kind of the, what's it called? That's the key thing to take into account. All right, okay, cool. So that would be natural selection. I know I've rushed through it, and it is quite a lot. You want to go to the toilet? Okay, I tell you what. Why don't we? I'll tell you what. We'll do evolution, and DNA, a little bit later on. I think. Yeah. So I tell you what. Why don't we end with? You can now go ahead and start working on assignment 3.1. So I need everyone to now start chatting in the Discord chat instead, because I'm going to end the stream. And basically, I would like you to download assignment 3.1 and then start working on it. And then at 11:30, I would like you to send me the send me what you've done, basically. Is that okay, everybody? So in the Discord chat, I want you to tell me as soon as you manage to download it. So tell me in the chat, like, oh, I've downloaded it, yay! And then basically start working on it. If anybody is still can't downloading it after trying multiple times, then start telling me in the chat thing, and we'll try and find a way around that. Okay? But I'm not pinning it. You must be joking. 1:30, no, 11:30. You got an hour from now, from 10:30 to 11:30. Just to start downloading it and start working on it, and then send me what you have. Okay? So, and that's pretty much it, everybody. I'm going to end the stream there. So, and then we'll continue this in Discord. All right, everybody. Much love. Goodbye.